ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनु भीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 23, Maharaj Prithu's Going Back Home. So, we are in the concluding section of the Prithu Charitra, and today we are at text 22. Today is also very auspicious appearance day of Narasimha Day. Today we are celebrating Narasimha Jayanti. So, let us offer our prayers to Lord Narasimha Dev by chanting this beautiful mantra in chorus. We will chant 3 times. उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं भीषणं भद्रं मृत्योर्मृत्योर्नमाम्यहम्। श्रीनरसिंह जय जय नरसिंह। प्रह्लादेश जय पद्ममुखपद्मभृङ्ग। उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं भीषणं भद्रं मृत्योर्मृत्योर्नमाम्यहम्। श्रीनरसिंह जय जय नरसिंह। प्रह्लादेश जय पद्ममुखपद्मभृङ्गा। उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं भीषणं भद्रं मृत्योर्मृत्योर्नमाम्यहम्। श्रीनरसिंह जय जय नरसिंह। प्रह्लादेश जय पद्ममुखपद्मभृङ्गा। Today's day is a very auspicious day. It is also called as Madhava Tithi. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, Madhava Tithi Bhakati Janani Jatani Palana Kare. So we should try to a little bit intensify our spiritual activity today. Today is a working day, of course. We all have jobs and everything. Evenings there will be programs at ISKCON temples everywhere. And there will be Abhishek, there will be nice Prasadam and everything else. We fast till sunset, and fast breaking can happen both the ways. Some people do with Ekadashi Prasadam, some people do normal Prasadam. So, I mean, both things are as such allowed. Okay. So, Lakshmi Narasimhadev Bhagwan ki jai, Bhakti Shiromani Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. We are back to our Bhagavatam. So, now text 22 to 30, we are 23 to 30. We are going to see how the wives of the Devatas, Deva Patnis, they are going to glorify Arci for her amazing activities after passing away of Prithu Maharaj. So we are at 22 now. Vidhaya kritam rudhini jalaplata दत्वोदकं भर्तुरुदार कर्मणः नत्वादिविस्थानं त्रिदाशत्रिपरित्य परित्य विवेशवह्नि ध्यायति भ्रतुर्पादौ. Translation.
After this, the queen executed the necessary funeral functions and offered oblations of water. After bathing in the river, she offered obeisances to various demigods situated in the sky in the different planetary systems. She then circumambulated the fire, and while thinking of the lotus feet of her husband, entered its flames. Purport. The entrance of a chaste wife into the flames of the pyre of her dead husband is known as Sahagamana, which means dying with the husband. This system of Sahagamana had been practiced in the Vedic civilization from time immemorial. Even after the British period in India, this practice was rigidly observed. But soon it degraded to the point that even when the wife was not strong enough to enter the fire of her dead husband, the relatives would force her to enter. Thus, this practice had to be stopped. But even today, there are still some solitary cases where a wife will voluntarily enter the fire and die with her husband. Even after 1940, we personally knew of a chaste wife who died in this way. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, you're not audible. If you're talking,
Yeah,
you're talking
no,
on mute,
no, no.
probably.
He left.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I muted. Sorry, sorry. Vidhaya Kritam. So Vidhaya Kritam means Arci Maharani, she performed the Antim Samskar. So there is a great importance of performing the samskara, Shodasha Samskar, which begin prior to one's birth. Like there is a Garbhadan Samskar, which is done by the parents, and there is an Antim Samskar, which is done by the children. So all samskaras are very important, including the Antim Samskar. The name itself is Samskar. Vivaha Samskar, Antim Samskar. So these are the Shodasha Samskaras which are mentioned in the scriptures. So she performed that, bathed in the river, prayed to the demigods, circumambulated the fire, and thinking of Dhyayato Bhartur Padav, thinking of the lotus feet of her husband, Maharaj Prithu, she entered the fire. Okay. She entered the flames. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, this is known as Sahagamana. Sahagamana means dying with the husband. And this practice was done from a time immemorial practice. It is not something a new invention. No. But like everything else in Kali Yuga, Anudinam, every day, everything just gets degraded in Kali Yuga. Similarly, this practice also got degraded. And otherwise, which was a very voluntary acceptance of austerity or sati, Sahagaman, became the forced event. And then this had to be stopped. But Prabhupada says, even recently, there are instances of, the wife entering with the husband. And Prabhupada says that I knew the chaste wife who died in that way. Okay. So, of course, now times have phenomenally changed, right? So, just take it more as spiritual master dedicating his life for the mission of, uh, the disciple dedicating his life for the mission of spiritual master. And thus, even after the departure of the spiritual master, disciple continues the mission of the spiritual master. This has to be taken in this way. Text 23. Now she prayed to the demigods, and now Deva Patnis, when they saw this, they were full of praise for Maharani Arci. Vilokyanugatam sadvi pruthum veeravaram patim tushtu varadar devair devapatnai sahasrashah. Translation?
Translation: After observing this brave act performed by the chaste wife Arci, the wife of the great king Prithu, many thousands of the wives of the demigods, along with the husband, offered prayers to the queen, for they were very much satisfied. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Vilokya, after observing Anugatam Sadvim, such a sadhvi, after observing, the giving of her body and entering the flames, Pruthum Veeravaram Patim. So Prithu was Veera, and the Patni was also equally Veera by her power of chastity. And this pleased Sahasrashah, thousands of demigods. Yeah, we have 33 crore demigods because our vision is not limited. We know that, the modern science also talks about billions of galaxies. And up to manage billions of galaxies, of course, you need 33 crore demigods, right? So, Sahasrashah, thousands of demigods and their patnis, they were very much satisfied, tushtuhu, and they began to glorify this great act of Arci, who is Samradni Arci. Text 24. कुर्वन्त्यः कुसुमासारम् तस्मिन् अन्दरं सानुनि नदत्सु अमरतर्येषु गृह्णन्ति स्म परस्परम्. Translation.
At that time, the demigods were situated on the top of Mandara hill, and all their wives began to shower flowers on the funeral pyre and began to talk amongst themselves as follows.
Yeah. So demigods, they were situated in the Mandara hill. Right. Where is the Mandara hill? We have to wait for one more canto. To meet Narsingadev, we have to wait for two more cantos. Seventh canto, we will be having appearance of Lord Narsimha also. So they were situated on the top of the Mandara hill, and they began to shower the flowers, on the pyre where Nadatsu, they were Amartaryeshu. They began to, blow the various drums and nagaras and everything, and thus they celebrated the divine departure of Prithu and Arci. Text 25. Divya urchuhu ahoyam badurdhan अहोयं वधुर्धन्या या चैवं भुजुभुजां पतिं सर्वात्मना पतिं भेजे यज्ञेशं श्रीर्वधुरिव. Translation.
The wives of the demigods said, "All glories to Queen Arci." We can see that this queen of the great King Prithu, the emperor of all the kings of the world, has served her husband with mind, speech, and body exactly as the goddess of fortune serves the supreme personality of Godhead, Yadnesha or Vishnu. Purport. In this verse, the words Yadnesham Srir Vadhur Eva indicate that Queen Archi served her husband just as the goddess of fortune serves the supreme personality of Godhead Vishnu. We can observe that even in the story of this world, history in this world, when Lord Krishna, the supreme Vishnu, was ruling over Dwarka, Queen Rukmini, who was the chief of all the Krishna's queens, used to serve Lord Krishna personally in spite of having many hundreds of maidservants to assist her. Similarly, the goddess of fortune in the Vaikuntha planets also serves Narayana personally, although there are many thousands of devotees prepared to serve the Lord. This practice is also followed by the wives of the demigods, and in the days past, the wives of men also followed this same principle. In Vedic civilization, the husband and wife were not separated by such a man-made laws as divorce. We should understand the necessity for maintaining family life in human society and should thus abolish this artificial law known as divorce. The husband and wife should live in Krishna consciousness and follow in the footsteps of Lakshmi Narayan or Krishna Rukmini. In this way, peace and harmony can be possible within this world.
Aho itham vadur dhanya. Dhanya, dhanya. They began to glorify Archi, who has served her husband with mind, speech, and body, exactly like Yadnesham Shri Vadhuriva. Just like the Shri, goddess Lakshmi, serves Lord Yadnesha, Lord Vishnu. Similarly, she has served Maharaj Prithu. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Yadnesha Shri Vadhur Iva means Queen Archi served Prithu Maharaj just as goddess Lakshmi serves Lord Narayana. And there is another example. One is goddess Lakshmi, and then there is the goddess. Who is that goddess? Queen Rukmini. And day before yesterday was Rukmini Dwadashi, right? She served the Supreme Lord Vishnu, Adi Vishnu, and that is Lord Krishna. Although in Dwarka there were hundreds and thousands of maidservants, she was not just coordinating seva. Tum ye karo, tum wo karo, tum wo karo. I will watch Netflix. Not like that. She was personally engaged in the service. Like many of my friends, especially Shankar Pandit Prabhu, he teases me like that. He tells me that, Mukundan, you also do some seva. Not that, you engage your people and you are relaxing. You need to have such friends also who will tease you time to time. So it is very important to be personally engaged in service, right? And this is exemplified by Shri, this is exemplified by Rukmini, this is exemplified by Arci, Samradni Arci. And then Prabhupada says, this is actually the beautiful setting of husband and wife. Like everything else is degraded in Kali Yuga, similarly, the relationship also has degraded in Kali Yuga. Dampatye abhiruchir hetuhu. The Dampatya life in Kali Yuga will be simply centered around how much prowess the man has, and the money man has, and the beauty woman has, and the money woman has. And it will just go more and more degraded. And then there will be certain laws which will be supporting that. So Prabhupada says, all that the effects of Kali Yuga can be avoided by a life if we live in Krishna consciousness in the footsteps of the service to each other. So in one of the very monumental class, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he was describing this way back in 1990s, where he says that just like the wife is serving husband, the husband also should serve wife. And people just got shocked. That 1990 Indian, the mindset. They said that, Maharaj, do you mean that the husband should become henpecked? Maharaj said, no, you don't have to become henpecked to serve the wife. But the point is that we have to realize the husband has to realize wife is a devotee, and the wife has to realize husband is a devotee. And this is how family that prays together stays together. So as Siddhanta Saraswati used to say, there is only lack of Krishna consciousness. Similarly, if we have a perfect Krishna consciousness in our house, as perfect as our advancement is, the husband-wife relationship also will be, very, very towards the perfect. Text 26. So these are the Deva Patnis. They are glorifying Arci Maharani. Text 26. Saishanunam brajanturdhvam anuvainyam patim sati paschyatam asmanatitya archidurбhavyena karmana. Translation.
The wives of the demigods continued. Just see how this chaste lady Arci, by dint of her inconceivable pious activities, is still following her husband upward, as far as we can see. Purport. Both Prithu Maharaja's airplane and the airplane carrying Queen Arci were passing out of the vision of the ladies of the higher planetary systems. These ladies were simply astonished to see how Prithu Maharaja and his wife achieved such an exalted position, although they were the wives of denizens of the higher planetary system, and Prithu Maharaj was an inhabitant of the inferior planetary system, the earth. The king, along with his wife, passed beyond the realms of the demigods and went upward to Vaikuntha Loka. The word Urtvavan, upward, is significant here. For the ladies speaking were from the higher planetary systems, which include the moon, sun, and Venus, up to Brahmaloka, or the highest planet. Beyond Brahmaloka is the spiritual sky. And that is a spiritual sky, there are innumerable Vaikuntha Lokas. Thus, the word Urtvam indicates that the Vaikuntha planets are beyond or above the material planets, above these material planets. And it was to these Vaikuntha planets that Prithu Maharaja and his wife were going. This also indicates that when Prithu Maharaja and his wife Arci abandoned their material bodies in the material fire, they immediately developed their spiritual bodies and entered into spiritual airplanes, which could penetrate the material elements and reach the spiritual sky. Since they were carried by two separate airplanes, it may be concluded that even after being burnt in the funeral pyre, they remained separate individual persons. In other words, they never lost their identity or become void, as imagined by the impersonalist. The ladies in the higher planetary systems were capable of seeing both downward and upward. When they looked down, they could see the body of Prithu Maharaj was being burnt, and the wife Arci was entering into the fire. And when they looked upward, they could see how they were being carried into airplanes to the Vaikuntha Lokas. All of this is possible simply by Durvibhavyena Karmana. inconceivable activity. Prithu Maharaj was a pure devotee. Prithu Maharaj was a pure devotee, and his wife Queen Arci simply followed her husband. Thus, they can both be considered pure devotees, and thus they are capable of performing inconceivable activities. Such activities are not possible for ordinary men. Indeed, ordinary men cannot even take to the devotional service of the Lord, nor can ordinary women maintain such vows of chastity and follow their husbands in all respects. A woman does not need to attain high qualifications, but if she simply follows in the footsteps of her husband, who must be a devotee, both the husband then both husband and wife attain liberation or promoted to Vaikuntha Lokas. This is evinced by the inconceivable activities of Maharaj Prithu and his wife. Thank you, Prabhu.
So here, the chaste lady Arci, they began to glorify, is still following her husband Urdhvamanam as far as we can see. So they were all stationed at the Mandara mountain and they had a longer vision. They could see far greater than what we can see. And from Mandara mountain, they could see the two aeroplanes. Prabhupada writes in the purport that Prithu Maharaja's aeroplane and the aeroplane carrying Queen Arci were passing out of the vision of the ladies, Devapatnis, of the higher planetary systems. And they were astonished. They were shocked, right? They were thinking, just like, you are going by Samruddhi Highway, you are driving BMW, and some alto car surpasses you and goes just boom. You're driving at 180 and alto is driving at 260, and you will wonder, "Arey, ye to alto hai, I'm sitting in BMW." So the wives of the demigods, they were feeling that we are situated in the higher planetary system and the lower planetary people, earthly, made up of the earth, Prithu and Arci, they are surpassing, and therefore they began to glorify. Urdhvamanam, they realize that they are going to go beyond our planets to the planets of Vaikuntha. So beyond the material creation, there is spiritual creation. Parastasmat bhavanyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanah. It is not that everything is finished. No, there is a spiritual realm which begins. Modern science is unable to find out even the limits of the material realm. The numbers are always changing, right? Hubble's constant has become Hubble variable, and it is constantly changing. It's for namesake, it is a constant. So, further, Srila Prabhupada writes, the Urdhvamana means on the higher planetary systems, and here higher refers to two ways. Higher refers to going beyond, and the higher also refers to, additionally, refers to higher in consciousness. Okay, so both the things. Second point, Srila Prabhupada makes amazing point. Prabhupada writes, look at this. Maharaj Prithu and Arci, they're both of their bodies in a way, in the final funeral pyre, they were burnt at the same time, but still there were two aeroplanes. So, Natvevaham jatunasam, Natvam neme janadipaha. So it is not that after the death they both merged together and they both became one and they sat in one aeroplane and went. No, even after death, although their bodies were burned together, the soul retained their individuality. So there is no idea of soul is merging with one another. So that merging means merging of the interests. They become one in interest, but the individuality remains, and thus there were two aeroplanes going back to Vaikuntha. Dhruva Maharaj, the story also we have seen, there were two aeroplanes. One is his aeroplane, another is his mother's aeroplane. So there is nothing called as merging. So merging is a very, very impure concept, which and therefore Prabhupada is known as Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. So Prabhupada takes a nice opportunity to make a point here that there is two aeroplanes, means they are not merging. Right. The two souls are going back to Godhead separately. These activities are durvibhavyamanena, extraordinary activities. These are not common activities. Right. So Prabhupada writes here that Maharaj Prithu and Maharani Arci, they were uncommon personalities. And they performed uncommon activities and they attained uncommon result. The glory of devotional service, especially Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, is such that common people like us can perform uncommon activity by Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, by participating in the process of Krishna Sankirtana and thus attain the uncommon result. And this is the special mercy of Gaur Nitai, the incarnation of this age. And Prabhupada says, and this is how, so look at the subtle point here being made. A man is required to be qualified, and woman needs to be a good follower, right? So here Prabhupada writes that generally the womanly body is not meant for extreme tapasya, but by simply the obedience to the man. And now here man and woman in a short way are just going to replace it by spiritual master and disciple. The, the woman attains the half the credits of the husband. You know, you must have heard this, right? That when the yajna is done together, ardhangi means the half the credits are given to the lady who is performing yajna with, with the Prabhuji. Why? Because of because of this activity of following the footsteps. So what this means, again, we have to understand that Desha Kala Patra is different, and the things have Kali Yuga is in full swing now. So what we have to understand is I may not be qualified, but when I'm following my spiritual master, when my assisting in the mission of the spiritual master, we will attain the same result as our spiritual master. Correct? This is the mood of Hanumanji also. Hanumanji says, no, Mata. When he is in Sundarkanda, he is sitting, he is there at Ashoka Vatika, and she says that, Hanuman, you are powerful. Hanuman says, no, my master, Lord Ram, is very powerful, and I am simply instrument of Lord Ram, and the instrument of the Lord can never be failed. I am Ramaban. And so he takes no credit. So what we need to do is, without taking any credit, without being exhausted by the inferiority complex, I don't have this, I don't have that, whatever we have, we should have full faith in parampara and follow and assist the mission of our spiritual master, and thus we will attain all the good result in spite of personal disqualification, right? So this is qualification is not a concern. Of course, we follow four regulative principles, we chant 16 rounds, and we remain obedient and chaste to the Guru Shishya Parampara and be engaged in the services, and then the results will be taken care by the Supreme Lord and Spiritual Master, the Parampara. So this is the beautiful meaning of following. Although we may not be personally qualified, but because we are following a personality who is qualified, we will get all the results. Text 27. तेषां दुरापं किं तु अन्यतमर्तानां भगवत्पदं भुवि लोलायुषे ये वै नैष्कर्म्यं साधयन्त्युत. Translation?
In this material world, every human being has a short span of life, but those who are engaged in devotional service go back home, back to Godhead, for they are actually on the path of liberation. For such persons, there is nothing which is not available. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 9.33, Lord Krishna says, "Ani- Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasva mam." The Lord here declares that this material world is full of miseries, sukham, and at the same time is very flickering, anityam. Therefore, one's only duty is to engage himself in devotional services. This is the best end to which human life can be put. Those devotees who are constantly engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord achieve not only all material benefits but also all spiritual benefits. For at the end of the life, they go back home, back to Godhead. Their destination is described in this verse as Bhagvat Padam. The word Padam means abode, and Bhagavat means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, the destination of the devotees is the abode of Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah,
In this
we are
verse,
close to 7:45. We'll read the remaining part of the purport tomorrow. Tesham durapam kim. What is impossible for Martyanam who are engaged in devotional service? They can attain everything up to Bhagavat Padam, what there is nothing which is not attainable for such devotees. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes Bhagavad Gita, Anityam Sukham Lokam Imam Prapya Bhajasvama. That how this material world is full of misery and asukham. Somebody will say, okay, I will adjust with asukham, no problem. It is anityam. Anityam means very flickering, right? And therefore, one's duty is to be engaged in the devotional service, especially when it's given in the human form of life. And therefore, Prabhupada writes here, therefore one should constantly engage in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord and thus attain all the material and spiritual benefits up to Bhagavat Padam, the abode of the Supreme Lord. And days like today, especially today is the Narasimha Jayanti, they are very auspicious to perform such seva. Bhagavad Katha is auspicious on every day, but specifically heard on these days, like Madhava Tithi, they become even more potent and empowering. So, chanting the holy names of the Lord, Shravanam Kirtanam, observing the Abhishek, performing the Abhishek, doing some services in the temple, all these are wonderful activities that one should engage one's time in. Today is a working day. As much as possible, as per time, place, and circumstance, we should take advantage of the day. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I have a small question.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
Prabhu, you are looking at the wives of the denizens. Like now, Prabhupada writes that as soon as Prithu Maharaja and his wife entered the funeral fire, they got spiritual bodies and they received, they got into spiritual aeroplanes. So the denizens are also material people with material bodies, maybe with more powerful, but can they still see spiritual planes and spiritual, unless they are very much advanced? So here, we expect that some spiritual enlightened people in the denizens' wives also. Is that correct?
Two things here. If we read the purport very minutely, Prabhupada says their spiritual bodies were developed. If you mark the word, there it is developed. Why? Because the spiritual body is always there. The soul, Chit Kanaha, there the spiritual body is there in that Chit Kanaha, right? It is compressed as a Kanaha. And therefore, when the material covering goes away, the spiritual body simply develops, right? So, this is the one thing. Second thing is, the denizens of the heavenly planets, they have higher vision. Therefore, they are called as Deva Darshana. Deva Darshana means like the great saintly personalities like Narada, and Vashishta. They are not visible for the ordinary vision. Now, Narada's body is spiritual, but even the denizens of the heavenly planets can see. So, what the understanding is that Deva Darshana means they have the vision developed due to intense pious activities, Punya Karmana, also their very high levels of Sattva Guna, and which is on the transcending realms. Now, a simple example, just like we also have a different vision. Just imagine somebody seeing, a personality like His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. Just imagine any ordinary person seeing Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. Of course, he is magnanimous. Anybody sees. And just imagine a devotee seeing Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. Right, by the virtue of the knowledge, by the virtue of the practice, by the virtue of knowing the austerities and phenomenal grit that he has shown in such a condition, and the kind of preaching activities he has undertaken, our vision of Maharaj will be far different than some ordinary person seeing Maharaj. Right? So this is our Deva Darshana. So we see based on our own consciousness, we see based on our own evolution of the knowledge. And this is there for everything. This is there for, like somebody may watch a movie with a completely, mind blown, and we may watch something like that, and we may say, yeah, choda, idhar. So the knowledge gives a different level of vision always, everywhere. Right?
Yeah.
This you will
Thank
see
you.
in the classical music also. Sometimes there is a classical music, somebody is performing. We may think, hey, kya, going on. and the person who is knowledgeable, we have Savai Gandharva, they will be absorbed in that and alap and everything. They say, wow. And 1,000 people will clap at the one point. They say, you know, you will be wondering, we may be simply happy with some, Bhavagit or something like that. And these people are happy with some Vilambit Khayal or something like that. It's completely different. The appreciation depends on the knowledge, vision depends on the knowledge,
Yes, Prabhu.
right?
So the spiritually, I mean, the people of denizens of wives. So they're also like there are many could be spiritual enlightened, like or devotees or practitioners.
No, they are great personalities, almost all of them, many of them. We, of course, from a very pure perspective, we may say that they are Sakama, Bhakta, or that we may see sometimes Indra doing some mischief here and there. But the point is, they are in an extremely elevated position,
Okay.
right? They see Vamanadev, they see Upendra. Everybody, all the denizens could see Upendra. All the denizens could offer the prayers to the Supreme Lord when he is in the womb of Devaki. So they are very, and that's why one of the important regulative principle of bhakti is never offending devata. Very loosely people say that they will quote one shloka from Bhagavad Gita and some one line from Srila Prabhupada's purport here and there out of context. But one of the very important principle of bhakti is never to offend devata. This is one of the 64 active, the regulations of bhakti. Never offend devata. They are great personalities. They are great devotees themselves, engaged in very great seva. And when great people doing great things, they have greater problems, right? We are not aware of those problems.
So one small question also, like we are say material world is like the Ananta Koti, like there are many unlimited universes in the material world, like the Karna Sagar. But in spite of that, the ladies can see Prithu Maharaj in one of the planet in the Ananta Kota Vishwa, Ananta Koti Vishwas, Brahmandas. They could see one Prithu Maharaj somewhere, like he's entering into funeral fire and going to spiritual planets. Like, is it because he's very much special personality? Can they see like in other universes also like that?
See, I mean, when it comes to universal scale, what happens is that the human intelligence is so tiny that if this is the question, if simply just wait for fifth canto, right? Then it will be even unlimitedly more confusing. That what is above what and where is what, and we simply cannot understand. So with the given intelligence, we have to understand that we cannot understand,
Yes, of course.
right?
Yeah.
This is the Brahmastra answer, which I will be using in the fifth canto. And if you have more questions, we'll get Pavaneshwar Prabhu.
I heard his videos, Prabhu, Bhagavad Darshan or something,
Yeah,
Bhagavad Cosmology.
correct. So, anyway, chalo. So, thank you, Prabhupada.
Yeah, thank you. Correct.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much.